Good afternoon. We're here to make a major announcement. We have a system, a technology, a science that simulates the human decision-making process by simulating the subconscious biases, creating a dynamic intuition that is then used by the system to make predictions. And we have some great successes to report to you. The act of coming here was a result of your many predictions and decisions that you made. Mostly were all subconscious. Specifically, your intuition was working hard. You were trusting your gut feeling. Those gut feelings were a result of your lifetime of experience. And we all know that every decision we make depends on varying degrees of our intuition and gut feeling. In the 2015 or 2018, Patrick Mahone, the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, made a play that was totally unscripted. And within about less than 100 milliseconds, can you play it back? Okay. In less than 100 milliseconds, he went off script and made a left-handed underarm throw forward to gain yards. That was totally coming out of his intuition and his gut feeling as a result of the experience that he had and all the various physical abilities that he had as well. His play was unscripted. His intuition took command. This is a real world. This is the real world. AI must understand it to be a real world companion for us. It must understand the intuitive driven decision-making process. Daniel Kahneman, father of behavioral economics and Nobel laureate, would say your subconscious intuition is busy working all the time while you are consciously doing something else. And so we thank you for your intuition for being here today, and for Mahone being the intuitive decision maker that he is. But you can imagine a world where we were unable to use our intuition to make decisions of what to do next. We would not be able to take the next step. We'd come to an abrupt halt, like statues in a museum, frozen in time. So far, GPT is in this current state, in our opinion. It really doesn't know what to do next. It produces lots of very interesting alternatives to look at and for us to analyze, but it relies on us to intuitively select the best of these alternatives. Doesn't the word intelligence in the phrase artificial intelligence include predicting the future? We think it does, absolutely. So currently, AI plus simulated intuition equals general AI. We are going to show you how we have achieved just that. I'm Grant Renier, and I just flipped the thing here. Here, maybe you can get it straight. I'm Grant Renier, undergrad in engineering and mathematics, and served as an internal management consultant for a Fortune 500 company. I learned number crunching of historical data was failing us when faced with complex events, and these included many very complex events, political events around the world. Graduate studies in economics and behavioral science were red flagging me that the intangibles of human decision-making are critical to producing the future. Years later, I bit the bullet and started my first venture to create a chip-based system to predict the future from real-time inputs. Dr. Howard Rankin, our Director of Science, and Kyle Bonn, our VP of Intuality Sports, and I are going to describe to you, in fact and in story, the features of our science. We call it intuitive rationality. Intuitive because it simulates critical subconscious functions of human decision-making, and rationality because those cognitive functions are in rational computer code. Intuality AI is its commercial name. It is successfully predicting future events in many domains. They're coming up here: sports, health, elections, econometrics, and health, and health, and forget the yellow one, econometrics. It performs these major functions, which are actionable alerts, and they're scripted in a manner that makes sense to the user. It predicts each real-time data series. It includes influencer data series, those that we're not trying to predict, but can then possibly influence the objective data. Data series are agnostic. It learns from successes and its failures. It correlates all environment data, the environment be the entire application. It predicts the general environment. No training, no pre-processing. It starts working from the beginning. It can process thousands of simultaneous signals at once. And it's generic logic for all applications. And finally, it works on servers, desktops, laptops, and mobiles. So we call this the soup of intuition. We simulate 12 human cognitive biases. There are hundreds of them, depending on the psychology you talk to, but we identified 12 that we thought were most significant, and these are them. You might argue whether or not some of these are literally biases, but for our purpose in our science, that's what we call them. All the way from risk aversion, gain maximizing, confirmation, anchoring, and so forth. And we produced heuristics for each one of these in code, and there's a special soup mix that brings them together to create an evolving intuition. It creates a cube, not always produced in visual, but internally, of all future probabilities of prediction. So on the bottom there, you see the serial correlations. Serial signals are coming in from the left bottom. The predictions are out for a default of 150 events into the future. And it creates a terrain of peaks and valleys. And then it sweeps that terrain, looking for specific emergence of unique information, and converts that into what I've called actionable alerts. This next slide shows a dynamic cube in operation. This is all future probabilities as it moves forward in time. And you can see the emergence of some items, other ones not. So we're stepping into a new era where intuition meets intelligence, predictions meet data, and decisions meet action. We need its companionship to help us respond effectively in an ever-increasing complex world. So welcome to Intuality AI. Dr. Howard Rankin is a psychologist, PhD psychologist, and is our director of science, is going to explain Intuality AI from the psychologist's point of view with an introduction of our character, Sherlock Holmes.
Thank you, Grant. Yes, if you wonder why I'm dressed like this, I've just finished a novel called Sherlock Holmes Takes on Artificial Intelligence to solve a murder mystery. So I thought I'd make it a little more interesting. Imagine you're sitting at home watching a football game between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs. And the announcer says something like, well, the Jaguars haven't beaten the Chiefs in 22 years. They have the worst record against them, their third worst point spread against them. Would that influence you in your outcome prediction of what's going to happen in the game? Maybe. But how would that data influence you? Because let's face it, after all, there is an uncertainty in history. Apparently. Okay. And that the assumptions that we make about relevance are indeed just that. assumptions of relevance. We can't know all the data of all the relevant variables all of the time. Thus, intuition and other heuristics are important because that's what helps determine context and relevance. Wisdom is knowing what you don't know. Wisdom is what's the exformation, not the information I have. What's the exformation, the information that I am missing? What other variables are more important? So in the football game, those things might be like current form of the teams, who has the most injuries in their first squad, what the weather's like, which quarterback just had a row with his girlfriend. Those are variables that we probably wouldn't look for, but actually are important. Humans are programmed to predict and make decisions. This is the essence of survival. This is what we are about. It's about adaptation. Now, when we do that consciously, we make shortcuts. There's only so much energy in our body. We can't do everything all the time. We make shortcuts because we have a limited brain capacity. So it is important to involve these subconscious processes in analyzing almost any data, in asking the right questions. Asking the right questions is a matter of creativity. Let's take our friend Albert Einstein, who was sitting under a tree one cloudy day when he saw the sun rays filtering through the cloud. And he asked himself, I wonder what it would be like to ride on a sunbeam. Thus, the beginning of the theory of relativity. The subconscious, our mind-body, and I think mind-body is an unfortunate and probably inaccurate distinction. I believe the mind-body is one. That is the encyclopedia of our experience. That experience that we have locked away in our subconscious that is so complicated, we can't consciously be aware of it all. We have trillions of cells constantly communicating with each other. And this is across the brain to the body and back again. Trillions of cells communicating 11 million bits of information per second. Cognitively, we can only do about 30 bits a second. Trillions of cells. Communicating, we now discover, wirelessly and also by quantum dynamic. The communication that is going on there is unbelievable. It comes to us, the subconscious is not linguistic, it's feelings, might be images, but it comes to us, it's our encyclopedia, it's what we know. Sure, it might be influenced by our experiences, but it is still fundamental for how we think about the world. In 1967, Hubert Dreyfus, a professor at UCal, wrote a paper called Why Computers Need Bodies in Order to Be Intelligent. And his theory was experience precedes knowledge and information. Without experience, that knowledge and information doesn't necessarily mean much. An interesting view. So, intuition becomes increasingly valuable in the new information society precisely because there is so much data. Now, we talk about cognition and cognitive processes as biases, but we have to understand that those are actually useful cognitive practices. We need to integrate that into our decision making, and now Kyle Bonn will talk about how we have done so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holmes. We humanize AI for better predictions, better decisions, and better monetization. That's what you're all really here for, right? So this is the story of Intuality AI's monetizable success. Behavioral AI predictions, markets, health, sports, polling, represent monetizable opportunities driven by human behaviors, where cold machine rationality fails to provide for human intuition, that gut feeling that you know to be true, but you can't quite explain why. So, sports predictions first. Monetizable events. We monitor events through streams of changing data on athlete and team performances and clues about sports events. Sports are inherently human events, and so is sports gambling. Not past events alone determine the imminent future. There's constant changing in sports metrics and real-time development as games progress, which are used for more accurate predictions. Sports predictions can be entertaining and monetizable. So subscriptions to content and actionable alerts during games can both be sources of revenue. Intuality AI's 10-year track record predicting NFL games against the spread provided a 58% win rate, which is quite good in Vegas terms, and a 50.4% return on investment. Intuality AI has a proven track record predicting election results, correctly predicted the 2016 presidential election in early September, and 57 other such tests conducted over a 5-year span had a 90% track record. Like sports, elections are decidedly human events. Health predictions involve any health monitoring that includes a real-time stream of data. Just like in sports, Intuality AI can take not just past data, but a real-time stream of health metrics. For example, alerts for epidemic seizures are critical. Intuality AI predicted with a margin of 1.3 to 3.7 minutes prior to seizure events, which is game-changing for the sector. It's also shown capabilities in predicting alerts for glucose and EKG warnings as well. And finally, Intuality AI is also showing real proficiency in making predictions in the financial sector. An ongoing real-time test over 14 months saw a large-scale fund grow from $1 million to $1.8 million amongst an otherwise flat S&P 500 environment. Market predictions involve any security where a stream of real-time data can give us clues about changing human behavior. And real-time movement of securities creates profiles of probabilities of future price changes. And when a particularly high probability outcome forms, alerts are generated. It's not the past alone which determines the imminent future in a human environment. As a sports broadcaster and journalist myself, I've worked extensively with the sports section of Intuality AI's sectors. It's come a long way since Grant and the team first decided that Intuality AI might be useful in the sports world.
A quick story here. In 2008 or 2015, the system had been doing what it had been doing over a number of years, predicting the day or the weekly football games in the NFL. For 2015, I got a bunch of our guys who normally got together and made bets on the Super Bowl. And so we did it for this year as well. The results here for up until the Super Bowl were 63%. You got it? That's all right. 63% win rate and 63.4% return on wagering. It came out with a recommendation, Carolina versus Denver. It said don't cover the bet. In other words, Carolina was favored, but it said don't cover it. We were all kind of Carolinians, and so we had to think hard about that one. So we went with it anyway, and we won, and we bought pizza and beer all around. We have a number of books on our that we've written in detail about this science. They're on our website. They're on Amazon, and one by Howard, myself, another one by Howard, and then we have a weekly magazine that we publish talking in depth about the science of Intuality AI. Thank you very much.